All right, everyone. So I am doing another video for this StarCraft 2 build order series. Just a refresher. What did we do last time? I don't remember. I think we added the ability to create more metadata on the actual build order. And now what we want to do is we probably want the user to be able to query or kind of search down the results. Now, first of all, this data is not good. So I'm going to delete these and make some fresh data. So again, we could say npx prisma studio. And I'm going to go ahead and just try to delete all of these builds. Okay. Maybe we'll fix that bug too. I'm going to create a new build order. We'll do ZVE. Me title is cheese build. Testing. Build order. Don't care. Click submit. And then I'm going to go back to find a build. ZVT. And here we have it. So I don't like how the card is so like small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Tailwind and see if they have like a container class. I don't know if they do. Looks like they do. So I could potentially just use this container class to make some of these elements like span the full page. What is my zoom at? 100. Okay, so let's go back to this page, which I believe is this one. And inside of main, I also want to see what happens if I just go ahead and say container. Like, what's going to happen if I do that? Oh, I think I also need to say like margin auto, make it centered. So this is more like a bootstrap container, and I do like this a little bit better. And the cards look a little bit nicer. I did lose a lot of the styles, so let's just look at the git diff real quick, and I'll bring those things back. The only things I care about are probably the BG Gray 800. So I'll put that on there. Actually, what I need to do is I probably need to apply this to the entire page of the entire app. So let's just go ahead and go to the app CSS or app TSX. Actually, is there a better place to put this? I think on the body itself, I could just apply it. Is that a bad approach, y'all? I think that works fine. Now let's fix this bug, because this bug's kind of annoying me. So if you were to just go to this URL, the app breaks because it's saying race name is not defined. Why is this? So let's go ahead and go to this component. Okay. It's saying this is not defined. And I'm guessing use router is like potentially doesn't return what you want the first attempt. So if I just print out like what race name is. Go to the console down here. Let's look at this real quick. It's not even printing anything. In fact, this might be printing on the back end, maybe. Nope. Oh, I'm on the wrong. Let's see. Let's look over here. It's undefined. I think what's happening is that this is running on the back end. And even though like I don't want this to be rendered on the back end, like this isn't a server side rendered component, this should be a front end only component. I think Next is still going to try to statically generate your page. So I'm not sure how we can achieve this. Does use router query even give anything? Let's just try printing this out. Go ahead and refresh the page. Prints out an empty object. So even though I'm going to this route, and this has the right stuff in it, React use router query is not even defined for some reason. So, I wonder why that is. Let's see. Use router query not defined, even though path has values. Use router receives undefined on query on first render. Okay. I found something. Is ready boolean whether the route fields are updated client side and ready to use should only be used inside a use effect method and are not for conditionally rendering on the server. Like a check if the router is ready. Seems super hacky. I don't really like that idea, but it isn't possible that the query value at the first render statically optimized pages are hydrated without providing route parameters. Yeah, they just say I have to use router is ready. So I guess I'll do that approach. I'm just totally not a fan of that. It just seems like a giant hack, but I guess if that's the way people say that you got to do it, then we'll do it that way. So basically, we need to run this code only when the router has the proper values in it, or not that code, this code right here. So now the question is how do we not run this? Because you can't conditionally render or conditionally run an effect or a hook. You have to like make sure it runs. So I think there's a way to say like disabled or enabled or something. I can say false so that it won't run when this page first loads. There might be other ways to do it as well. And then I think I should be able to like make it do a refetch here. So I can say builds dot refetch maybe, or maybe you can say like dot enabled. I'll just say refetch. I might go to Google and try to figure out. Use effect is missing a dependency of builds. Okay, so this effect needs to run here at the bottom, probably, and I'll pass in builds so we can correctly call refetch with whatever the value of builds that comes back. So let's try this. I'm going to save this. If anyone knows, again, I don't work full time with Next.js. Again, everything I do on my YouTube channel is more of like me learning and just showing you guys me learning on the fly. So there's stuff I don't know, and I learn along the way, and I kind of just teach that. So hopefully you guys don't mind that I don't know all the answers. But if you go back to the app, if I refresh the page, does this work? And it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because, again, this is not defined. So I don't know if maybe I should just like fall back on something. That seems hacky too. Or I could just default this. Yeah, I'll just do this. I'll just make it an empty string. Really like doing that either. Sorry, I'm just taking some time to make sure I kind of do this properly because right now I don't like what's going on. Can I do that? I forget in JavaScript, I think you can default to the structuring just there. And I could just make those set. Does that work? What's this complaining about? Invalid DOM property fill rule. Where's that set? Probably just needs to be like Reactified, JSified, JSXified. Let's just save that. Same thing with clip rule. Go ahead and change that. It's always good if you see red errors in your console, like even if they're warnings, like just fix them. Because it's just distractions. Okay, so that fixed the issue. I'm not really happy with that fix, but whatever. Let me load up that page again. So default them to empty strings so that they don't crash over here. I mean, technically, we don't even have to say 2 lowercase here. We could potentially like the only reason I added that is if someone were to say like a capital T here, it wouldn't crash or it wouldn't get back no results. So it's kind of like a premature optimization that I might not even need to add. But again, I don't know. I don't like this. But anyway, okay. So now what we want to do is let's try to like style this up a little bit better. So the H1, like I say, class name is going to be text of white. And then we could say like text of, how do you do the size? Isn't it like font of extra large or something? I don't remember at this point. Not size, not font, text size. Man, I don't remember how to do it. Tailwind text size. Yeah, it's text small. I thought I was doing that. Okay, so text 4XL, let's see what happens. Okay. This looks okay. I'm gonna go ahead and say like this will be a flex, and I will say gap of 4, just to put some space between these. I'll do flex column as well. I wanted to put some space between the title and that, but I don't like the spacing there, so I'm gonna say 12. And then at the top of the container, I'll say padding top of 12 as well. So filters. Let's say we had a bunch of different builds. One's a cheese. Let's just go ahead and create another one. That could be a macro. Just type some garbage stuff. Go to find a build, ZVT. So let's say I want to only find the ones that were all-ins, okay? So we could potentially have select boxes here. We could have toggle switches. Don't know what the best approach is, but again, let's just go over to that one site, Flowbyte, and let's see if they have some type of like toggles or switches or radio checkboxes, right? You only have one selected at a time. At least that's what I want the user. So no, I don't want toggles. Let's say radios. What does radios look like? I don't know what the UX term I'm looking for. I mean, I guess this will work as well. This looks okay. Let's just do this. I like this much better than a select dropdown. Like if you go to the StarCraft 2 build orders site, like the one that I always use and reference, I don't like select boxes. It's just like 2 extra clicks in terms of UX. Like I gotta click this, then I gotta search to it and click something else. I'd much rather just be like, okay, I want the cheese builds. Okay, I want the macro builds. So I'm gonna try doing this. Just go ahead and copy the entire thing over, and we're gonna put that here. Get rid of the H3 class. We don't want that anymore. And then I'm gonna rename this class name like I did on the other times I did this. Now we do have some issues here. This needs to be HTML4 because it's JSX, and then this input is complaining because it has no closing tag. So let's make sure that we have closing tags on our inputs, or else JSX will not be happy with the code. And there you have it. Let's see what this looks like. All right, so it looks okay. I think we should probably go back and add a label. Now we've done labels before on the create build page. I think it's called the submit build page. And let's look at a label here. In fact, we can actually use a field set with the label. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go ahead and just wrap this whole thing in a field set with a label that says build type. Okay. And let's obviously rename these from driver's license. Like they should probably be something else. So let's say driver license. Instead, this will be cheese. I don't remember what I did for the drop downs here, honestly. Cheese, all in macro timing. Cheese, all in macro timing. Cool. Now let's do some cleanup, because I do think just copying all these things over and over again, like we could probably abstract this away to export const build types is equal to these all in macro or a timing attack. I guess I just called it timing, because I believe I do this other pages as well. So we want to make sure that we're like referencing from the code and we're not like duplicating logic everywhere. So let's first do it on this page. I will go to here. For every li, what we actually want to do is loop over that. I'll say build type. And let's just go ahead and copy that li here. Go ahead and paste that in. And I will render out build type like so. Probably give it a key of build type because they're all going to be unique. So it's fine to use a key of build type. And now what we can do is delete all this extra code, right? So right now we're at 182 lines of code. Let's just delete this. See what happens. Now we're down to 120. So usually the less code you have, the better it is and the easier it is to understand and read your code and manage your code. So now we actually have these things all dynamically being rendered out via data, but we can't select any of them properly. Actually, I think I need to do some HTML4. So HTML4, this stuff, I think we also need to have the IDs here be a little bit dynamic. So I'm going to say build radio, and then we're going to put build type. We want to make sure that the accessibility is set up properly and make sure that the IDs match the HTML4 so that when you click on the labels, it actually selects. Okay. Now, again, this isn't bound to state, and we're going to have to filter down the list of things to make sure we only show the ones we want, right? So let's just go ahead and do that. Up here at the top of this page, I'm going to rename this the find builds page. And then I'll say const selected build type, set selected build type equals useState. And then by default, we are just going to set it to build types, the first entry. Okay, we'll just do cheese. In fact, I don't want people to default to cheesing. I think macro is like kind of standard, right? It's like you actually want to like play out a real game. You don't want to just do something cheesy. So I'll make macro first, and then I'll do timing, and then I'll do all in, and I'll do cheese. I want to put cheese last so people are less likely to just do a bunch of cheese games because I hate cheesy players. But anyway. See, it just goes to show the UX that you do in your applications can actually affect potentially what people do in the real life, right? If you put an entry first, people are lazy. They're more likely to just use the default selected thing, which will be macro. And then if this actually was used, like if my application was actually used by the masses who play StarCraft 2, then they would more likely just do the first one that they saw. Hopefully, that's my that's my thought process. But anyways, just go down here to the LI, and when you basically select this input, I think I can say on select. And what we're going to do is we're going to just say set selected build type to build type. Okay, so we're going to keep track of the one they selected. And we also probably want to say selected, or is it selected? I think it's checked. Yeah, checked, and we'll say the build type is equal to selected build type. Then we know that this is checked. Value, I don't think we need to put anything. Let's just try this out again. In your DevTools, hold on, you provided a checked prop to a form field without an on change. Oh, I think I need to do an on change. Technically, I could do like a value here. I could say this is build type. And then here I could say e.target.value. I think this would also work. And then I'm going to go to my DevTools. Like I was saying, go to your components, DevTools. So you can inspect this React component, hover over. I guess you don't need to hover over anything. Click timing and make sure that the state is updated correctly. So state all in. So it looks like it's correctly hooked up to state. Okay, I'm happy with that. Go ahead and do this real quick too. Okay, so now we want to filter down the result list to only show the build types that are for the one that you selected. So how do you do that? Well, we're going to use a computed in React. Typically want to say like a const filtered builds is equal to, and then we're going to go ahead and just get all the builds. So let's say builds.data if it exists. Okay, let me go down here real quick. Builds. Where do we loop over the builds? I'm going to go ahead and just render out filtered builds. Filtered builds.map. And we're going to go ahead and say if there is no data. So if there is no data, then I'm going to default this to an empty string or empty array. I do believe there's a way to default this. So I could say like default. Is there a way to say like a default value? I might not be able to do that. It might be called initial value, initial data empty array. I think I can do that, and then it won't like, I won't have to do this question dot. I'm not too sure, we'll find out. But basically take the builds data and we're going to filter, and we want to basically get the builds that have a type. Did I call it style? Ugh, gosh. This is an issue with your code. Like, you name something one way on the database, but then you change it in the UI, and then it's changed in the API, and you have 3 different names that all represent the exact same thing. So potentially, I would probably either refactor the backend to have a build type, or refactor the front end to call it build style. This is saying this is potentially undefined. I'm gonna add an exclamation mark and see what happens. Okay, that's not working either. All right, I'm just gonna default it. I'll do the nullish coalesce, default it to empty array, get rid of that. Just to make TypeScript happy. So now I think if I select timing, all in cheese, we actually get back the different builds. Pretty cool. Now, is there anything else we want to filter on? I mean, we have the title, probably not. The description, probably not. I mean, maybe there's a search input box that you can actually search. If you know the build that you want, or you know the author that you want, you could potentially type in pig, or you can type in like Armstein. But I think this might be good enough, honestly. I don't know. One thing that'd be interesting to do, though, is when you click on View Build, we probably actually want to go to the page and see more about the build, like see the actual, like, what are the steps. And then also this badge. I don't even know if we need a badge here. I don't like how it's red. I mean, we could have different colors for different badges. You guys want to try doing that? Where do I display that? So I think there's a card down here, build card. And I believe the badge is here. And at some point, like, you have to start abstracting stuff away. Like, at this point, I'd probably say, okay, we have this actual component, and instead of copying and pasting like this stuff everywhere, which is a lot of extra like tailwind CSS garbage, I would probably just put a badge here. So I'll say badge component, TSX. Oops. I'll do this. And we're going to go ahead and just take this code. We're going to return it here. And one thing you can do in TypeScript is you could do like a variant. And this could be a potential type. So I'm going to go up here and I'll say our type, export type variant is equal to, and then you could just go ahead and say like red or green. How about that? And then I'll say variant. Why do I call it variable? Does that make sense? So basically, we're going to use that variant to change the style. We also need to pass in text. Okay, so instead of build style, I'll say text, and then this could be text string. So we have a nice reusable generic component that we can change the color, not have to worry about like all this tailwind CSS stuff. So based on the variant, I'll just say like styles is equal to, and then based on the variant you passed in, like if you did red, we probably want to do something like this. And then if you say green, we'll just go ahead and do this. You might also be able to interpolate the color here, like might be a little bit easier to do that. But let's just go ahead and delete all the colors from this badge. And at this point, I might bring in the class names library because it makes it a little bit easier to like add stuff together. So I'm gonna npm install class names. And once that's installed, I'll just go ahead and close this. I'm gonna go ahead and import it. So import class names from class names. Okay, so if you haven't used this library before, it's just a helper utility basically where you can call it like this. And I will pass it the original string, like so. But then we can actually kind of just do this. I'll just say styles of variant. And it's going to concat those together. There's also some other things you can do as well, which makes it really useful, in my opinion. Some people don't like to use this. They'd rather just like concat it in the string itself, but I think just using class names is fine. I think the package is pretty small. Let's try this out. So we should have, I'm going to put red for cheese. Actually, I'll put yellow for cheese. So let's just go ahead and add one more. And technically, like some design systems, they would put danger, they would put success, they would put warning or alert or something. You can do that as well if you rather have that. Go ahead and update those types. Okay. Now, wherever we're using the badge, variant is required. So I need to make sure that I go and find any problems in my TypeScript and fix those, which I haven't even used the badge yet. So let's just go ahead and import the badge. And I'll say text is equal to build.style. And variant is going to be equal to cheese. I'll do warning. Okay, so it should be yellow now when I like look at it. But they're all yellow, which isn't that great. So we have to kind of do some more refactoring to figure out how to dynamically change the variant based on the style. Now remember, the build card is a very specific component. So technically we could say like badge variant is equal to, and then I will say, I'll do styles here. So like this could be cheese, macro, timing, all in. Now at this point, I think I have this stuff copied everywhere in the code base, so I need to refactor that before it gets out of hand. Well, let's just go ahead and do build.style. And now the variant should come in. Cheese will be warning. Macro will be green because it's money. So I'll say like success, timing, and all in. I'll say danger. Do I have something else for this? Let's do blue. What is blue? Primary? Let's go back to the badge. I don't think I have a primary. Make it a blue. Okay. So now we can pass that variant dynamically into the button or into the badge here, and based on, oh, I do need to do some typing here. So this thing, it needs to actually be a variant, which I'll import from badge. String or undefined is not assignable to type variant. Type undefined is not assignable to variant. Okay, so we have a little bit of a TypeScript issue. And I think that it doesn't think that these are variants. So I wonder if I did this. I'm still am a TypeScript noob. I'll be completely honest with you all. Like, variant or undefined. Forbidden null assertion. So the linter doesn't like it when you do something like this. I could also use enums as well. I read online that enums are not good in TypeScript, so don't use them. Don't know how true that assertion is. But, okay, what do I want to do here? I think it might be easier if I just exported different types here. So I say like danger variant, the danger. And then success variant, warning variant, and primary variant. This will be primary, warning, success. And if you guys have a different suggestion for this, like just go ahead and tell me in the comments. I'm always open to suggestions because I'm the type of dev who doesn't really think too hard. I just kind of do the first thing that comes to mind, and that's my weakness. If someone were to ask me what my weakness is in an interview, I'd be like, I just do the bare minimum to get the stuff working, and then I come back and try to like clean it up a little bit. But did I export those? I did export those. I'm gonna make those const. Ugh. Let's try that. Just making this. Let's try this. Primary variant and danger variant. All right, so this should potentially be, this needs to be a variant. String is not assignable as variant. All right, so my TypeScript weaknesses are definitely showing through right now. Honestly, like, I kind of rather just use an enum. Like, I've used enums before and they just make a little bit more sense to me. So like, we could potentially just do something like this. You guys are probably just laughing at me right now. People who are actually good at TypeScript are probably just like laughing. That's cool. That can be entertainment. So I'm going to rename this to an enum. And not find, oh, I have to get rid of the equal sign, I think. There we go. Is this any better? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and say variant.warning. This is danger. Timing was primary. And then this was success. And what is this still complaining about? Quick fix, disable that for that line. Does that fix it? Cool. I mean, if you want to follow eslint, I could potentially say this. I could say, if there is no build style, or I could do this, then let this thing equal to one of these. Otherwise, let it be primary. In fact, I should probably just throw an error because like you're passing something wrong to this, right? Oh wait, I could just fall back. What am I doing? Let's do this. Can I just get back past this, please? Yes, no more red. Okay, all that extra work just so that we can dynamically change the variant based on which one is being displayed. So all in is going to be red, cheese will be this. Let's add a timing and a macro just so we can kind of like make sure this is working. Go ahead and add that, and I'll say, I don't know which one I just did. Did I just do a macro? Find a build, ZV, Karen, macro, timing, all in, all in. Where'd the timing go? I probably called it something else. I probably call it like timing attack or something. So this goes back to this issue where I'm using like, this thing is being hard-coded in different places all throughout the code base. And really we should have this be defined in a single place, right? Because now I think for timing attack, that's what we're storing in the backend. And that's what we've been creating these things with the backend on. So I think what I need to do is timing needs to be changed to timing attack. And it might make sense to do another enum for this. I don't really know. But at the very least, we could dynamically loop over the options. So I could say build types dot map build type. And again, like we need to render out an option for every build type. So here I will say pass in the build type and then pass in the text. Probably be nice to have a filter that like made this proper case. What's this complaining about? It's probably complaining about key, first of all, and then it's probably complaining about expected a curly brace. Oops, delete that one. Okay, sometimes it's best to just like delete everything and then start fresh. Okay, so build types I need to import. So I'm gonna import that from another file. It might make more sense to have that be in like its own separate file. But now that's coming from a shared piece of data to make the app a little bit more consistent. Now again, like these things, these should be coming from a centralized place, right? So let's go back to that file that had build types. And I'm gonna go ahead and say const macro build type is equal to macro. Go ahead and do the same thing for the other stuff. And then I might just refactor this to use enums because why not? So macro build type, timing build type is timing hack. All in build type is all in. And cheese. Let's just go ahead and change these up. Just so that like we're not copying the same magic strings all throughout our code base. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it should be a little bit cleaner to you. I'm going to pull these up to the top of the file. And then we're going to use those here. So instead of here, I'm going to say cheese build type, macro build type, timing build type. It's tedious, but making code better is always like a tedious process. Okay, so now if down the road in a year, someone decides that there's a new type of build type that's really cool, all I need to do is add it here and then add it in here. And then on every page of my application, I'll have that build type displayed. Even the backend should be able to support it because the database is stored to a string. I didn't use like an enum on the database. Maybe it'd be cool to have one that says all. So let's see. You know what? I'm not going to do that. I think that's pretty good. I mean, it's good progress. I don't even know if we need the little badges here. It just looks kind of cool in my opinion. Especially if you had this set to all, because then you'd have to like parse through all these different things and they'll have different build types. Let's just try to add the next step where if I click on view build, it should take us to a page that allows us to view the actual build order. So here, I'm going to change this to a link so that we can actually do the navigation in next. Okay. And this needs to go to a page, probably builds, and then I'm going to go ahead and just put the build ID, which I think we have access to. Let's do this. Some interpolation here. I'll say build. So now if you click on this thing, it takes you to build / the ID, but we don't have a page in next to even like do anything with that. So let's go to our pages here. And I'm going to add one. So I'm going to go ahead and say builds is a folder. And inside of builds, we're going to add a file called buildid.tsx. Oops, build like that. And then we're probably going to have to do something similar with that other page where like we had to make sure the router was defined. So I'm just going to copy this whole other file, paste it in, and then instead of find builds page, it'll be build page. Delete that, delete all this code. I'll call it view build, delete that. At this point, it might have been easier to just start with the blank next page, but hey, whatever. All right, this needs to go up a level. Okay, this needs to go up 2 levels. No, I'll just keep deleting stuff till it turns green. I did it. Okay, so now what we need to do is when this page loads, we have to fetch the information for that build. How do we do that? Well, first of all, let's go to our routers and let's go to the build router. Do we have a way to fetch a build by the build ID? I don't think we do. Only thing we have is get builds by matchup. So I'm going to copy this one. I'll paste it in. And I will say get build by ID. This will take in a build ID, which is a required string. And we're going to go ahead and just get, I'll say find unique. Like this. And I believe I could say build ID, input.build ID, like that. Build ID is inaccessible and build ID is not. Let's see. Let's look up the Prisma schema. It's just called ID. So here we're going to say find where ID is equal to build ID. Okay. So now we have access to a route that we can actually do a query on to get some data back. So how do we do it in the front end? Well, we've done it before. Instead of doing all this, you just say get build by ID, use query. This thing needs to take in a build ID, and we need to get that from the router. Well, what is it from the router? It was, if you look at this file, it's called build ID. We'll say build ID, and I'll go ahead and just use that. We don't need the two lowercase stuff anymore. Really, we just need to do that. And again, I think we might have to keep it disabled because it's going to fetch a build that doesn't exist when this router first loads. In fact, if I show you, if I just did this and deleted this stuff, I bet you this page is going to throw an error. Let me just fix up some types. If we don't need the router. Okay. Let me add that back real quick just in case. So just verify, if I were to try to print out like, I don't know, build.title, I think it's build.data.title. And then data could potentially be undefined. So let's just do that. Now let's go back to our page and refresh. We do get the title here. But do we have any errors? And secondly, actually, I think it's fine. I don't think we need all this stuff. It was just a very interesting use case where like we were doing a two lowercase. So I don't think we need to pass in enabled and all this other like is ready stuff. Okay, so let's put an H1 on this. And we will just go ahead and put a class on this. Text white. And I'll go ahead and say text is for Excel. Save that. That's the build name. And then we should probably display the actual build, right? So somewhere we should have a text area or a paragraph. I don't know what we should do. We could also do like a pre. And inside the pre, we could say build.data.build. That's the build. Let's just add some class names to this. I'll say like background or BG is gray of 500, see what happens. And I will say, what else do we want to do? Probably give it some padding, right? Padding of 4. At some point, we'll probably add like a copy button or something. I don't know if we even need to copy it, or this should even be a pre. I don't know if it should be a pre tag or not. What else do we need to do? What else do we need to do? What else do we need to do? I mean, I've been coding for like 40 minutes now, so I think this is probably a good enough addition to this app. I should probably do a commit and go ahead and push this. Now, one thing I potentially do is like get rid of this redundant code. I could say like, actually, do I want to do that? Yeah, I'll just keep it like that for now. Let's just commit, and I'm gonna wrap up this video. So let's just go ahead and add everything. I will say adding filters to the matchup page and making a build page to view the build order. I don't know if this thing actually has like a limit. Like it says it does, but I'm just gonna commit it anyway. All right, so that's pretty cool. We have the ability to find builds. We have the ability to search and filter down those builds based on their build types. And then you can actually click on it and go to a page to get the actual build instructions. And I think this is a pretty good video. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up and stay tuned for the next part of the series where I don't know what I'm gonna add, but I'll probably add something cool. And like always, there's a Discord that you can join in my description if you want to ask me or just get help with learning how to code. There's a bunch of people there who are willing to help you out. Just go ahead and ask a question. Hopefully someone will answer your question if you ask it. Have a good day and happy coding.